No, okay. Now we're live. The mics were not on. Our apologies, but
So once
you
again,
want to
this
do that?
is the Woodlawn Station alongside Chris Gambino. I'm Colin McGee. Been a while since we had our last show. It was before spring break. A lot has happened since then, though. Last time we had a show was before WBC season, before Yankee season, but now the Yankees are back. USA lost in the final to Venezuela. Very sad game there, but the Yankees have looked pretty good. They just ended up dropping their first series of the year though to the Athletics. Just lost 1-0. Overall, when I take a look at this Yankees team, I like what I've seen out of the top of the rotation. I like what I saw out of Max Free. Cam Schlittler is continuing to solidify himself. Even Will Warren, and I've always been kind of a critic of Will Warren, hasn't been too bad as of late. But when I talk about the problems with this Yankee team, it just the entire bottom of the order. When you look at 6 through 9, you take a look at Ryan McMahon, Jose Caballero, you take a look at what's going on down there, just not really getting a lot of production. They're still finding ways to win games. They still do have the best record in the American League, I believe, up until this point. But of course, as Yankees fans, we're always going to have high expectations. We're always going to nitpick. I'm sure you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Dom just texted me that he can't call in because his break was too early, but he wants us to talk about how good Ben Rice has been, and that's definitely been one of the big talking points. He's been absolutely tremendous on a incredible run to start this season, pulling up some of his numbers here as that loads. Bang 333 with 3 homers and 11 ribbies and 11 hits on the season. He's been absolutely fantastic. And, for some reason, and this is all me, this is a fault of mine, is for some reason, because he wasn't a high draft pick, he was drafted in the 12th round by the Yankees, and he was called up like midway due to an injury in the middle of the 2024 season. I just, for some reason, have a hard time believing that this guy is legitimately one of the best hitters in baseball. But that is the truth. He is legitimately one of the best first basemen in this game, and it's crazy to think about. He's absolutely phenomenal. If there's any issue with his game so far, it's been he has a hard time with the strike zone, challenging pitches. He's a little too emotional with it. He is. I don't know the exact statistic, but I know he's been pretty unsuccessful with the new ABS system. But if you can get that down packed, he is terrific, and he hits the ball harder than many players in this game. And as a lefty bat, he's kind of the profile of player we were calling for years. So it's great to see him doing what he's doing. He's the truth, as Dom Noda would probably say. He's the truth. But the Yankees do lose today. Jeffrey Springs was on the mound and threw 6 no-hit innings. I think it was in the 7th when they got their first hit.
Their only hit.
Their only hit of the ball game, a one-hitter. I don't know if he finished the game. I could be wrong about that. I honestly didn't watch this game. We're here at school. I don't have the ability to watch the games on my phone. But Ryan Weathers, I know, went 8. And I want to touch on him for a second because the pitching for this team has overall been pretty good. Very good, I should say. If anything if there's any issue with this team, in my opinion, other than maybe the bottom of the order, I would say the bullpen has been shaky. David Bednar, we were there yesterday in a pretty cold one, I must say.
Coldest one I've been at there.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cold. David Bednar didn't blow a save, but came in a tied game, gave up the winning run. The Yankees lost 3-2. A's pitching this series was fantastic, even better than the Yankees. I don't know how sustainable it is, but if that is something, if that's who Jeffrey Springs is, which in the past he's been a good pitcher, if this is what he's going to be for that team, and Luis Severino was pretty good after a shaky first inning. This A's team could be pretty sneaky. So I definitely wouldn't write them off yet of the playoff picture. But for the Yankees, I feel like this happens every year. I think that in 2024 they lost the series to the A's at home early in the season. It happens. You're going to lose series. You can't win them all. But we are looking at losing 3 of the last 4 games after that pretty bad Easter Sunday loss, I must say. Nobody really talks about it because they won that series and they had a great win on Saturday. But 3 of their last 4 games they've lost. And yeah, I mean it's the bullpen and the bottom of the order. Those are the 2 big issues with this team. But I think at this rate, how much we've seen this team over the past couple of years, I think we know essentially what to expect. We can complain about Ryan McMahon. We can complain about the lack of a shortstop, and that Anthony Volpe is going to come back, and that shouldn't really make anything better. And how the prospects that we like are in the minors, and don't really doesn't seem like any of them are coming up anytime soon. But overall, I, I think we know what's going to happen. This team still has the best record in the American League, as you mentioned. It's very early in the season. I mean, the Red Sox are off to an awful start. They're trying to work their way back. They're a lot better than their record says they are. This is the point in the season where you're going to start to see some pretty crazy numbers for some teams. And give it a couple of weeks, and most of these teams should be more where you expect them to be. So, listen, I still think the Yankees are one of, if not the best team in the American League. I'm not really shocked by any of these losses, and overall, it's the same stories. It's the same thing as last year. It's back end of the bullpen and bottom of the order. The question is, how are they going to fix it? It just feels like they've struggled to fix it.
Well, I've talked about this guy a lot, really, over all these years, but I want to
Mhm.
bring up Giancarlo Stanton again
Yeah.
because we've heard how he can't even open a bag of chips. We heard the 2 tennis elbows, how much of a problem that is just in his everyday life, yet he's still playing great baseball. And like, once again, I know that it's been very common in the past for Yankees fans to kind of question his effort and question, especially I remember back when he first came on the scene in 2018 and 2019, he wasn't really a fan favorite, but once again, he's just a guy who always comes in and produces. And like you said, Ben Rice has been a revelation. It really feels like almost the entire offense for the Yankees has kind of been Judge, Bellinger, Stanton, Rice. That kind of feels like where they're getting most of their production so far this season. You haven't seen a lot from Jazz Chisholm. I mean, I remember there was one play where he got grounded, ball got grounded the second. It took a little bit of while to throw to first base. So once again, just it seems like that's always kind of been a concern with Jazz. Like people
Yeah.
question his effort, but I mean, he made a phenomenal dive and play
That was
last night.
great.
We saw ball got hit down the first base line. But yeah, overall with the Yankees, I do expect that Chisholm will eventually find his swing. McMahon's going to be tough though because since he became a Yankee, I believe the average is around 170, about 60, 70 games since he got traded from the Rockies. So it's going to be tough for him to turn it around. You really hope he doesn't turn into another one of the long list of Joey Gallo archetypes for this team. But when I look at Jose Caballero, I see that obviously the production hasn't been there. And when Anthony Volpe comes back as well, it almost just seems like they're going to give Volpe the job back. That's just kind of the feeling I'm getting right now. I mean, obviously the Yankees are much higher on Anthony Volpe than I think we both are. It seems like they are the highest on Anthony Volpe compared to anyone. So we'll see what happens. But it just really, to me, I still have my doubts on the Yankees improving third base and shortstop if it continues to be a problem. Brian Cashman does not like to give away top prospects. It doesn't matter that Jason Dominguez is sitting in AAA right now, despite the fact that he is having a great start to his AAA season. He's not going to get playing time. He's going to go to Randall Grichuk. Spencer Jones probably won't get called up as well because the outfield's crowded with Judge, Bellinger, and Grisham. So I think once again, you saw how dominant this offense was last year. It just feels like, though, I can't see a lot more improvements coming at the deadline. It just kind of feels like this is the group we have. And you just have to win with it.
Right. And I mean, I was just reading a stat here. For after that first inning yesterday, the Yankees had started off the game with 3 straight singles, only 1 hit since that first inning yesterday. So yeah, just a rough couple of games for the Yankees, but we'll see where it leads them as they head down to St. Petersburg to take on the Rays. Again, it's so early in the season that these losses are going to happen. It's just like, and I would say, like, I think we can expect the Marlins to be a pretty bad team. I don't know if the A's are a bad team. We really
Do you
don't
think the
know.
Marlins are a bad team?
I mean, they're another one. They're pretty scrappy to start the year, but it's just like I
I mean, they
can't.
won. It was 80 games last year, about there, right?
I think so. I mean,
They
again,
are 8-5 right now. I mean, really, if you look at the National League standings compared to the American League, I mean, I have to double check it again, but yeah, there are only the Yankees, Guardians, and Rangers are above 500 in the American League right now, compared to the National League, where most of the teams are over 500.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I would be shocked if the Marlins made the playoffs. I think, or if they snuck in. I guess I wouldn't be because I mean the Cincinnati Reds were in it last year, and I guess they're a decent team too. But I don't know. We really this is that point of the season where we really don't know for those teams. We do know for the good teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox. Even I would put in that category. The Blue Jays. Those teams are going to figure it out. The Cubs, if they haven't already, eventually they'll figure it out. It happens. I saw it was a video talking about the Red Sox and their bad start to this year. And you look at the Astros 2 years ago in 2024, they didn't win the World Series that year, but they started off the year also, I think, like 2-10, and then went on to like start like 7-18 and still won the AL West. So this we're 2 weeks into the season. This is it doesn't mean anything. Not that it doesn't mean anything, but there's still so much time for these teams to prove themselves. The Rays just lost the series at home to the Chicago Cubs, 2 of 3 games. A team that I was pretty high on, very high on heading into this year. And again, they still could be great. It's so early in the year to tell, but we do know that the Yankees returning to the Trop. They struggle there. They've struggled there in the past, and this will be the first games they've played there since 2024. Yeah, since 2024, because last year they played those games at George M. Steinbrenner Field. They used the Yankees minor league spring training facility last year because of the hurricane damaging the Trop. So they head to the Trop and then they come back home again, which is weird. A one series road trip to Tampa Bay to come before they come back and play the Angels, and then I think the Royals also at home next weekend. So an interesting stretch, but listen, it's really not much. It's really nothing surprising, honestly. The Yankees really never surprise us. It's always they get to the postseason, have a really good season, always start the year very well. May, beginning of June's good. Mid June or slightly early to mid June comes and they completely
The June
struggle.
swoon.
The June swoon, as
followed
we've
by
called
dry
it.
July.
It's awful. And then August they kind of figure it out. They have a phenomenal September, and then come the postseason, there's always one team that's better than them. That team always goes to the World Series. So I want the Yankees to surprise me, but then again, I feel like at this rate, Colin, any surprise that the Yankees would give me would imply that they're not making the playoffs. So I don't know if I really want that either.
Yeah, I mean, it always just kind of has felt destined to be a 90 to 92 win ball club. And I mean, they're kind of showing that right now. You still have concerns. Like, you still do see the holes where if this team gets into a best of 5 series, you see how they would lose that because you can't really trust Camilo Duvall right now.
No.
Bednar's even been shaky as well. Obviously, when they went on that run to the World Series in 2024 is because the bullpen was dominant. Like, Luke Weaver was great that postseason. Like, you really trusted those guys in the back end, like Tim Hill as well. Great, all that. And he's still doing good for the Yankees now. But the point is that you see the areas in place where this is not a very complete team. And once again, if you go into the playoffs, for lack of a better term, you know what I like to call it, you can't have a black hole sun from 6 to 9 in your lineup.
That's
you
true.
Can't have 3 guys who are automatic outs. You can't have Ryan McMahon batting. What is he batting now? 110 on the season. I have to look it up right now, but I know it's got to be something like that. He was having a 0 for 20 stretch at one point.
I don't think he's gotten a hit since, and I think it's funny.
He had 1 hit. I think he has 2 on the season.
Ryan McMahon is batting .077.
Exactly, and that's supposed to be your starting third baseman who's playing every day. Like, you just can't have that. I mean, maybe it's you can maybe argue like, yeah, sure, maybe it's a rough patch, but since he's been a Yankee, it hasn't been there. And once again, I don't know what the solution is because are they gonna go out at the deadline and go for like a Corey Seager? Is that going to be something where they're going to spend? Because you know that if you end up trading for that guy, you're going to need to give up Jones, or you're going to need to give up Dominguez. And Cashman in the past has not been one to do business that way. So it just seems to me that once again, I feel what frustrates me as well is just with the lockout coming, the potential of a salary cap coming at the end of this lockout. This kind of feels like the last year where you could be the Yankees.
Yeah.
This feels like the last year we can go out and spend the money for all your prospects and really build up your roster. And especially, like, God forbid it happens. We don't want to see no baseball in 2027. But if that's the case, you come out on the other side of that with Aaron Judge past 35 years old. Like, it just, once again, like, how many more years are you going to keep punting away the roster? Like, it feels like you have to go all out. The Dodgers go all out every year. Like, the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series. They go get Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz. And obviously the Dodgers are more willing to spend than we are for whatever reason. But just if you're truly serious about winning the title, maximizing this group's window, you have Garrett Cole coming back. We don't even know what Garrett Cole is going to look like. But if Garrett Cole comes back well, this is a discussion we can have until we're blue in the face, I feel like, just the way how they operate business. But if Ryan McMahon and whatever goes on at shortstop isn't working, you have to replace it.
Absolutely.
There's no excuse.
No, yeah. That the lockout really makes everything shaky. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they I can't see them getting a Corey Seager or taking on a big contract at the deadline because God knows they don't know what's going to happen after this uh, s- uh, collective bargaining agreement is signed. Like, we don't know if there's going to be a salary cap. I don't know. That's not the this is just very reminiscent to my senior year of high school podcast of baseball in the winter, where all I had to talk about as a baseball fan was the CBA and their agreement with the Players Association. It's just not the side of baseball that we want to think of, but it is the unfortunate reality. And I think the Yankees have to look at themselves in the mirror and think about this. But there's a good chance that this team could win a World Series still, even with Ryan McMahon in the order. It could happen. It very well could. It's not smart business to run that way, but this is a decision they made last year, and I can't see them getting out of it. I just go back to when that trade was made. Like we seemed pretty cool with it at the time, and then this ends up happening. He's really bad with the bat. We expect him to be maybe halfway decent. We were hoping for maybe like a 220 average at worst, and maybe like 10 home runs. But
Batted 240 in Colorado.
yeah, and he comes here and he hits 4 home runs for them last year. Granted, he had a solid little postseason. He had that phenomenal catch in Game 3 of the Wild Card Series, and then I think he hit one in the play in the. He hit one against the Blue Jays. That's what it was. He hit in one of those games. I think the Yankees ended up losing it, but it was a pretty big home run to tie it, I guess.
It's not like those games really mattered.
No.
Kind of an exhibition.
Yeah, at that point. But look, it's one of those things where you just they've done this for so long now. Just like stick to their process, stick to their business. I can't sit here when I see the New York Mets at 7-7 complain totally, especially because the Yankees always do this. This isn't brand new or anything. So I'm not exactly shocked by that. And so I guess because of that, I have to sit here on a podcast and tell you all that we got to be okay with it. We have to be okay with it. And that's okay because, listen, we could come back maybe next week, or I don't think we're going to be able to do our show next week, but 2 weeks from now, there's a chance this team could still have the best record in the American League, be on a tear, and we'll have a bunch of good things to say. But unfortunately, what's fresh in our minds is a series of losses to the Athletics. So, listen, it is what it is. I still think this team is definitely making the playoffs. I still think they're one of the best teams in the American League. And now I think we're gonna.
No matter what, those ice cream chicken buckets are gonna fly off the shelves.
Oh
at
yeah,
Yankee Stadium.
That's ridiculous. So that's a new concession at Yankee Stadium. For those who don't know, it's essentially a chicken drumstick, which is weird because their big product is chicken tenders, but it's an ice cream bar in the shape of a chicken drumstick, like a fried chicken drumstick, and the outside coating is, I think, caramel or like a white chocolate with frosted flakes to create, the breading, theme, vanilla ice cream on the inside. And then there's like a bone, quote unquote, that's made of white chocolate. And it's a new product. The problem is they sold out after the first 3 games. The Athletic series, they were not available, which is pretty crazy for any fans. So that's nuts. I waited like an hour for chicken tenders yesterday on the line. It's insane. People go nuts for these Yankee Stadium concessions, which I don't think are all that great. Other than that, I think the chicken tenders are good. I think the burgers are okay, but I don't. I think it's overrated. But I think we'll move on here to the NFL, to the New York Giants, where a couple of things have come up.
Well, one major thing really that I think is going to be the center of this discussion, and that is going to be Dexter Lawrence. So he, after the 2022 or 2023 season, I believe it was, he got an extension and he still has 2 years left on his deal, but it's a pretty team-friendly deal, about $20 million per year he's making. However, he wants more, and with 2 years left on his deal, Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade from the New York Giants. Now, do I think this is going to eventually happen? I still have my doubts. But, I mean, if the Giants trade Dexter Lawrence, I just don't see what the solution is. For so long, the number one concern with this defense has been the run defense. For whatever reason, past 5 years, they have been terrible with stopping the run. And Dexter Lawrence, despite, maybe people saying that last year he didn't really play with a lot of effort, there was a time where Carl Banks called him out as well, saying how he's not giving it his all. if you don't have Dexter Lawrence, this D tackle room is horrendous. You are never stopping the run because you're looking at Darius Alexander, who was a third round pick last year, has really was underwhelming in his rookie year. You would need to expect him to step up and be this kind of the star of that D line up front. Then you have Elijah Chapman, Sam Roberts, Roy Robertson Harris, and really at this point with how far you are in free agency, if you lose Dexter, you just don't have anyone else. Like unless you draft someone very high in the draft. I'm not really sure where the draft ranks in terms of defensive tackles, but this is just not a guy the Giants can afford to lose. And we saw in 2024, at least really that entire stretch from 2022 to 2024, debatably the best player in the league at his position. It's either him or Chris Jones. For the All-Pro team, he made the second team. He was behind Chris Jones, but regardless, when you see the lack of talent the Giants have had on their roster over the past 5 or 10 years, you can't afford to just let a guy who is a top 2 player at his position walk. And the Giants have operated for so long that they do let a lot of their homegrown talent walk. They let Saquon Barkley walk. I mean, let Wan'Dale Robinson walk, even though once again I agreed with that. But it comes to a point that you're going to have, I believe it is in about a year or two, if obviously most of their players are young on rookie contracts, you're going to have about $88 million in cap space. And if you don't pay your own guy who has been on this team since 2019, he actually is the longest tenured Giant. He was a part, obviously, of that trade for Odell Beckham, which the Giants received the first round pick from the Browns. That ended up becoming Dexter Lawrence. And the first couple of years, he was still a good player, but it really was in 2022 when he broke out. He's made 3 Pro Bowls, like I said, 2 All-Pro selections. He's a great player, and you can't go on without him because say if you lose Dexter Lawrence, imagine the outlook on this front seven next year without Dexter Lawrence. What does he do? He commands double teams. A lot of times the guard center to double team him, puts a lot of pressure on there. So you saw the season that Brian Burns had. He was phenomenal, but probably a better season than Dexter Lawrence last year, all things considered, because obviously the splash plays and the counter numbers mean so much. Without Dexter Lawrence commanding those double teams up front, who are they going to double team? They're going to double team Abdul Carter. They're going to double team Brian Burns. You're not going to be as successful getting the pass rush on the edge, and that's what he brings to the table. Because of the fact of the respect he has in this league and how much of a disruptive force he has, it only makes those pass rushers better. So to me, it feels like I don't see a scenario where losing him in any sort of regard benefits this team, because it'd be different if this was a team which has been able to develop a lot of these up front interior nose tackles, but they just haven't been. It's been Dexter Lawrence and no one else. They haven't gotten it right for years. I've been trying to kind of hope that the Giants get someone else to pair alongside him, because you can't really. I mean, Roy Robertson Harris is just not the guy. You can't have someone like that up front if you want to be a championship winning defense. So I think it's a disaster if he walks. I think he stays, but it's going to be interesting to see how John Harbaugh handles this, right? Because this is truly the first adversity he's faced as coach, because ever since he's come here, it's been basically a love fest. John Harbaugh, we hear how great he is, how the players respect him. But now you have a guy who is probably the best Giant of this past decade. It's either him or Saquon Barkley. So to see how he responds to this, to see how the front office responds to this as well, because once again, keep in mind, is this a Joe Schoen decision or is this a John Harbaugh decision? All reports kind of seem to indicate that it's Harbaugh who has a say here, but this is the first real time this new regime gets tested, and we'll see how it goes. But man, they can't afford to lose him.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about this for a while with the Giants, is that bringing in John Harbaugh is a shift in culture with this team. And I don't know, what does that say about your culture that you let one of your homegrown guys walk? What does that say to your rookies and new guys that you have brought in and will continue to bring in, that you let these homegrown players leave constantly? You have to develop a culture. You have to have veterans on your team that have seen what it's like to play here in New York and to play for the New York Giants. It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to be bigger than most organizations in the NFL, and that's not what it's been. Now, if this is his decision, then you got to respect it and move on. But he's been here for a while, and he's been absolutely fantastic, and a defense that definitely needs help. It's not in any position to lose players and to lose any help. So, listen, it's interesting to see how they handle it, but John Harbaugh looks like he's taking advantage of a lot of these decisions, and I think it would be interesting. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how he handles it, because he's already doing things very differently than how things have been done in the past for the Giants. So it's gonna be interesting to see, and obviously I hope he stays, because unlike some of the players that they let walk, Wandale Robinson included. This is someone you want. This is someone you want to keep. This is someone we've liked and who showed really not signs of like slowing down or anything. Like it's. I mean,
And just for
yeah,
reference on how absurd the situation is, Dexter Lawrence has a tattoo of the New York Giants
yeah,
logo on his right bicep. Like
yeah.
imagine him playing for the
I
Browns
forgot
wearing
about
a
that.
Giants
That's
logo.
insane.
He does,
Yeah,
yeah. So like as visible as ever. So it's just like what? Like, are you going to let this guy walk out of the door? And I know, like, obviously the price tag is, I mean, it's a different league now. Like you heard in the past, if you hear paying $30 million for a D tackle, instantly you would say no. But the salary cap keeps exploding every year where maybe he wants to reset the market. Maybe he wants to be the highest paid defensive tackle in the league. But I'm sorry, if you're a guy who's top two at your position, I think that you can argue getting that money. And like once again, like if you want to establish that culture, he has been here for 7 seasons. Like I said, he is the longest tenured Giant. I see no reason as to why you can justify letting him walk. And I get you're going to say 2025 was a down year, but like I said, he brings so much to the table. He's only going to make Abdul Carter better. He's only going to make Brian Burns better. He's only going to make the secondary better. When Denard Wilson came in here as the new defensive coordinator, he banged the table for Dexter Lawrence. And that's a guy you want on your team. When you have a top two player at a position, you have to keep him.
absolutely. Um, yeah,
If you had a top two quarterback, you had Josh Allen. What are you going to let him walk out of
no,
the door? Exactly.
absolutely. Listen, I only say you can maybe think about letting a guy go if he shows signs of slowing down, and obviously, it's not happening.
It was
So
half a sack last year, and it wasn't obviously the counting stats. Most of the sacks went to Brian Burns, but like I said, it's just for the past 4 seasons, this guy gets
yeah,
double
it's that
teamed
that's
every
like that's
play.
that's another thing. This isn't like a free agent they just brought in 2 years ago. It's like this is someone who's also been around for a while. There should be more of a an emotional attachment to those types of guys. So if I'm gonna let a guy go that's been on my team for a while, I need to see an incredible drop off, and obviously that hasn't happened. So listen, if the Giants want to change their culture, if they want to talk about culture change and changing the way people across this country think of the New York Giants, bringing you back to those old days where this team was genuinely reckoned with and expected to win. Getting back to those days, you think long and hard about this type of decision. This is the type of thing that should keep you up at night and forcing you to make the right call. So we'll see what they do.
Well, if you notice the time he decided to announce this, it was the day right before they went in for voluntary offseason training, their first OTAs, like voluntary OTAs of the year. So John Harbaugh's first OTA as a Giants coach immediately has to answer about Dexter Lawrence. So it was obviously very calculated on the part of him and his agent. But if this goes out until training camp, it's going to be a massive story because as it was, Dexter Lawrence didn't really come into training camp last year in the best of shape. So he's going to obviously maybe if you don't get a deal done until around September, that's going to be even more of a disaster because he's not going to be up to speed. He's not going to be ready. And all of training camp, Harbaugh's going to have to field these questions about it. And really, the only time I've seen this kind of play out for a defensive player where the trade has happened was Micah Parsons last year. That was a very public case. But I mean, I'm not even really sure what return is out there on the market. I don't think you trade him unless you get a first round pick. It has to be a first round pick because I'm sorry that he's too valuable of a player just to give up for a second and a third. But like I said, at the end of the day, some of those picks are going to need to go towards the interior of the line because you just can't feasibly expect to go into next year with a D tackle group that does not include Dexter Lawrence and has Darius Alexander or maybe Roy Robinson Harris as your number one or number two and expect that you're going to finally solve your run defense issues. Because as it is, when you take a look at Darius Alexander, he came out of the draft not being a guy who was a run stopper. He's more of a speed kind of edge, more kind of focused on sacks and rushing the passer. So he's not a guy who specializes in run stop. And so where is the solution? And the reason why Dexter Lawrence got these double teams for so many years is because he didn't respect who else is in that room. Of course, you're going to double team Dexter Lawrence because do you think that Raheem Nunez Roches is going to come in and cause disruption up the middle? No, he's not. So that's, to me, it's frustrating because it's been a problem for so long that many Giants teams have just not been able to fix. But he's part of the solution. He's not a part of the problem. So, like I said, if it costs $10 million more per year, if the production goes down a bit, I don't see where the solution is that's going to be any better than this. So you kind of have to do it, in my opinion. And I do, for the record, very much like Dexter Lawrence as a Giant.
Agreed. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess if you don't have anything else to talk
I don't
about.
think there is much else,
Yeah,
honestly.
I
mean,
just read that. I mean, going back to baseball for a second, the Twins just swept the Tigers in 4 games. That's pretty startling. But again, so early in the season for baseball.
our last two ever shows of the Woodlawn station will have 2 weeks from now NFL Draft Day, and the week
Oh,
after
that's
that
gonna
will
be
be
big.
after the NFL Draft.
That's gonna
So
be big. And
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, there is an event called Radiothon happening. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it implies, but stay tuned for WIUR to hear more about that. I hear it's happening on the NFL Draft Day. That's gonna be big.
What a promo.
Yeah,
Company man over here.
Radiothon. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry we couldn't have Dom today. Chick-fil-A is very demanding with their hours, as we know.
I would put, Chick-fil-A is a very important place to be right these days.
No, it is. People need their lunch, or after lunch, I guess.
I could have gone for a chicken sandwich myself.
Yeah. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We will not have a show next week, but we'll be back 2 weeks from now with more updates on the Yankees, the Giants, and everything in between. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next time.